We're live, Your Worship.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. All right, council. I'd like to call this regular council meeting of May 23rd, 2023 to order with adoption of the agenda. Someone want to make that motion for me? Councillor Cherry, seconded by Councillor Devlin. All in favor? Motion's carried. Adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting of May 9th, 2023. Someone make that motion? Councillor Devlin, seconded by Councillor Luzau. All in favor? Motion's carried. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, I'm going to go on to announcements from the mayor. Just a couple things. So May 31st is coming up. That will be when we draw to close the communication and engagement on the Revelstoke Forum Arena. So for those who still want to make comments, by all means, everything's up and running on our Facebook page and Talk Revelstoke. So just encourage people to give us the value of their opinion. And starting today, we've got some work happening downtown on First Street from Pearson to Rokeby. It's starting today to July 5th. They're doing water and sewer. And then on Mackenzie Avenue from today to June 9th. And again, doing water and sewer. So projects just started today. So just be aware there'll be detours in those areas. And please keep informed with our social media posts, and we'll keep people up to date, as well as the contractors doing the work. We'll keep the community up to date. So I'm going to move on to number 8A, recommendations from Committee of the Whole. So Ms. Floyd, do we have any presentation, or we can just fly right into it?
You can fly right into it, Your Worship. We discussed this at Committee of the Whole on May 11th, and I made the requested changes. They are in the package.
Okay, so someone want to put the motion on the table for me, please? And there is an and that. Councillor Devlin.
I move that the Committee of the Whole recommends to Council that the Council Code of Responsible Conduct Policy C1 be approved with the following amendments as per the package. And that once approved, all council members sign the Code of Responsible Conduct Attestation Appendix A.
Second for the motion, please, Councillor Cherry. Any discussion on the motions or the changes that were made in Committee of the Whole? Seeing none, I will ask the question for all of these things. All those in favor? Opposed? No motions carried. Thank you, Council. And moving on to item B, from recommendation from Committee of the Whole, electronic meeting and participation. Someone want to put that motion on the table for me? Councillor Cherry.
I move that fees and charges amendment bylaw number 2.
No, we're not that far down yet, right above it.
My apologies. Electronic meeting and participation policy A25 be approved with the following minutes to the video as the package.
All right, second for that motion, please. Councillor Stapenhurst. Any discussion on this motion? Councillor Cherry, you have a comment?
1 sec, Your Worship.
Okay, anyone else? Any comments? All right, I'll call the question. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I know we chatted about this at the Committee of the Whole, just under 11 and 12, if we wanted to make any changes to that prior to adoption. As it reads right now, video council members participating electronically will endeavor to keep their cameras on at all times, except in instances such as where bandwidth cannot be supported through video streaming or where the chair has been advised of audio only participation. And then number 12 is except as permitted in section 9, if a council member is no longer visible or turns their camera off during a meeting, they will be considered absent.
Any comment you want to weigh in on that from you?
I'm worried that somebody might be marked absent. We could be left without quorum accidentally.
Yeah, and I think the intention is to motivate all of us to be on whenever we can. but a simple statement, and I'm going to ask Ms. Floyd for clarification. A simple statement saying, I need to turn my video off because bandwidth is not here. I am here. I am present. And then there may be conversation around the table where I would say to, if it was you, Councillor Cherry, just want to make sure that you're hearing everything and that sort of thing. So we do have those instances come up when we're doing CSRD meetings, where some of our directors are in areas where there's no way that they can participate if they have the video on. So they might show up at the beginning of the meeting, click the video on, and then click it off, and then make statements to the corporate officer that they're still present, whether that's by text or whether the chair will state, have you heard that? In a way that those who are sitting around the table know that we're just checking to make sure the member's still there and they're actually able to participate.
If that's the case, then I'm all for it. My fear is that, again, we could lose quorum or something could be brought back up just because somebody's camera's off. I just want to make sure that's not going to be an issue. And then if by text, you mean in the chat?
Yeah, chat or even
Still
text
see that,
by
right?
phone or whatever, right?
There's enough people that can see the chat. I know it doesn't pop up on here. That's right.
Yeah.
So,
There'll be some communication back and forth. We're just not gonna,
yeah, just,
take that stamp and say, oh, no, I don't see you, you're gone. That's not gonna work for anyone.
Yeah.
The whole idea of electronic meetings is the ability to have everyone participate in whatever capacity that they can so that we can conduct the business of the city.
yeah, I feel, I agree with that. I just feel that between, lack of proper transportation, that some of us get stuck out of town, decide to zoom in on a meeting because we don't want to miss it, we don't want to participate, or, we're traveling. So I just wanted to clarify that. But that was my only issue, and if now that we've had that discussion, I'm perfectly fine with the way it's written. If there's any issues.
Any other comments from any other council? Councilor Orlando?
Yeah, I didn't have any comments generally. I'm supportive of the policy in general, but just a clarification question that arises from that one. What if the power goes out or my signal dies for some random reason? What is the procedure going to be if suddenly it's just, I get disconnected, which does happen?
So from my perspective, one of us is gonna either text you or phone you and say, what do we, and can you switch over to your cell phone audio? Should be present.
Okay,
I think that those are the questions that we're gonna ask.
sure.
And then failing that sort of thing, if we're unable to reach, then we're gonna make a statement that we've lost signal of that council and, or that counselor, and then go from there.
Sure, right, sounds good.
That exact thing happened to me last time I zoomed in.
Yeah, those things definitely happen. So it is technology and we are bound by the limits of what's around us. So if there's no further comments, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? No, motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item 9A, bylaws. Someone will put that motion on the table and we can have a discussion. Councilor Chair.
I move that fees and charges amendment bylaw number 2355, bed and breakfast business license fee
Be adopted.
be adopted. Yeah.
All right. Second for the motion, please. Councilor Orlando. Any further discussion on this motion? We've gone through all three readings. We're down to adoption of that. And in my mind, initially we had one or two comments from community. Otherwise, people seem to be understanding of what the changes are. So, Councilor Orlando, you have a comment or question?
Yes, Your Worship. I am supportive of this change, this amendment bylaw. I would also like to address, we had probably like half a dozen letters written in about this. People were concerned about the raise in price. I guess from my perspective, the viewpoint is that, providing these services costs us money, so we need to make effort to recoup some of that cost as those costs were outlined in the report. I think it's If you think of it holistically, there's probably other costs. I believe there are other costs as well that are not accounted for. So I'm supportive of the change. I would just wanted to point out a few points. Number one, B&Bs pay residential rates, they don't pay commercial rates. So there's not an apples to apples comparison for example, hotels or motels, because they pay a much higher rate to start with. And number two, I think the rates were too low before. So this is bringing it up to date. And last thing, yeah, I just want to say I do read the letters and listen to the input. The last point was some people were saying, well, how come there wasn't a long consultation process? And in my view, what is happening from my perspective, at least, is we see a need for a change and we're just going ahead and doing it. And that is sort of, so the positives and negatives of that decision fall back on us and me, but we're just making that decision right now, largely in my view, from my perspective, for expediency, like just getting this done and not spending a lot of time on something that I think needs to be done.
Good, thank you for that comment. And as you mentioned, this is about trying to recover our fees. As our staff have said, this is close to what it costs us to operate, and it's the appropriate thing to do as far as not basically having the rest of the taxpayers pay for these fees when you're not having the service. So, any further comment before I call the question? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? No, motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on to 11A staff reports. Ms. Hartman, do you have a presentation? And Councillor Orlando, comment.
Your worship, yeah, I have I'm going to declare a conflict. One of the applicants is an advertiser with a company operating, so I'm going to step out of the room for just a second.
Thank you for the comment.
Through your worship, I do have a presentation. I can just share my screen here.
Thank you.
Before I start, I just want to make sure that you can see the full presentation on your screen.
Ken, thank you.
Thanks. So before council, we have an industrial development permit for form and character of a storage and manufacturing facility. This is to be located at 95 Cartier Street. So let's go into a bit of a background, proposal overview, policy direction, and staff evaluation, and then the staff recommendation. So just a bit of the background, property details. It's currently used to store construction materials, and the property contains a few structures and shipping containers. It's located off of Cartier Street at the end of the cul-de-sac in the South Revelstoke neighborhood. It's surrounded predominantly by other industrial uses. There's the bottle depot there and some other Parks Canada building and other more construction operational sites. We have Bridge Creek to the southeast there. You can see along the treat area. And then you have the railway and Hainer Creek to the northeast. The property is zoned light industrial, and it's also within the industrial development permit area and the environmental sensitive development permit area, specifically the riparian areas protection, and that's for the buffer around the creeks. So a separate technical minor development permit has been submitted. So this is for the riparian area regulation for the development close to Bridge Creek. It is outside the protection area for Hainer Creek. So just a bit of the proposal overview. The applicant is proposing an industrial storage and manufacturing facility. This is to be used for assembling prefabricated wall panels and also for contractor equipment storage. The applicant does have an existing facility that's going to be relocated from 606 Victoria Road East to be located at this industrial site at 95 Cartier Street. So just a bit of the site design. There is an existing access from Cartier Street. The site's to be surfaced with gravel for dust management. There's enclosed storage and manufacturing facility building with also a detached shed for washroom and recycling storage. Construction fencing around the lumber storage area, you can see in the northeast corner there. wood fencing sections along what's called the Streamside Protection Enhancement Area. So this is for Bridge Creek. The riparian area regulations 30 meters, and the qualified environmental has set the streamside protection area as 19.8 meter setback, and the development is 2 meters away from that required 19.8 meter setback. And that's where no development, vegetation removal, or soil disturbance is permitted. 3 parking stalls for construction staff, and then there's LED dark sky compliant exterior lights for the building. There's a bit of the overview of the building design. So the building is 300 meters squared. It's constructed out of 6 shipping containers supported by a concrete lockbox and covered by pre-engineered trusses to be fully enclosed. It will be cladded with West form metal cladding, large sliding doors, which will contain the sound transmission and accommodate moving the wall panels in and out of the building as they're building them inside the building, moving them in and out. The roof will be rubber and then metal walkways around the building. And the shed, which was located just south of the building, is to have a toilet and bear-proof garbage recycling containers. It'll have metal siding as well. And then it will be a 1-pitch roof with rubber on the roof as well, with a wood post between the garbage enclosed area and the portable toilet. Just a bit of the staff evaluation. So looking at site plan and parking, there's no residents within the neighborhood. The property is surrounded predominantly by industrial uses, and the proposal is at the rear side yard. The outside storage is screened and it's not visible from Cartier Street. The parking and loading stalls are located away from the front of the property, and they're close to the building near the rear yard. For the building form and character, the addition of metal siding onto the side of the building will create a more permanent, higher quality industrial look. And the building will be constructed fully enclosed with large sliding doors. For environmental considerations, it's fire resistant materials, recycling garbage bins are enclosed, exterior materials and finishes are resistant to weathering. The building has a flat roof to retain snow, and it's a large site which will allow for on-site snow storage. There is wood fencing along the entire streamside protection enhancement area of Bridge Creek, gravel surface for dust management, and as mentioned, dark sky lighting is required. And at this time, staff do not see a need for additional landscaping on the site for the current proposal. If there is any additional development on the site, staff would require a comprehensive landscape plan at that time. So for staff recommendation, it's for the permit to be issued subject to the precondition that the owner receives issuance of an environmental sensitive development permit. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Hartling. So just a couple of questions. So the site that they have on Victoria Road, will that be moved over to Cartier Street and then they carry on, or are they going to build a new one on Cartier Street and then disassemble what they have on Victoria Road?
Through your worship, what you see on Victoria Road will be fully moved to Cartier Street. The owner has other plans for the lot on Victoria Road. There may be an application in the future for more of a multifamily rezoning. At this time, it will be relocating this development and it will be vacant until there's a new proposal.
Okay. And timeline, do you have any idea of how soon these folks are able to move and stuff if we put this through?
Through your worship, they're wanting to move it as soon as possible. It is dependent on the province reviewing the qualified environmental professionals report. So it's just pending the provincial review. If council does issue this permit with that precondition, it's pending the provincial review, which was submitted quite a while ago. So it should be coming back to staff from the province soon, but we haven't received that notice yet.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that, Ms. Hartling. Any other questions from council? Councilor Cherry.
Thanks, Your Worship. I just wanted to read out that this went to the Advisory Planning Commission while we were on April 25th, while we were all at Silga. I just wanted to read out their words. The commission is supportive of the relocation of the existing building to the city's industrial site. The commission is supportive of the enhanced siding of the building as well as proposed siting of the building to minimize visual impact from Cartier. If there's further development on subject property, the commission is supportive of comprehensive landscaping for the frontage of the site that is well integrated. I also have just one more thing to add on a question.
Sure, go ahead.
We've had numerous complaints from the current location, from noise coming out of it. I'd be surprised if there hasn't been 100 from community members. I think you get it. I think everyone's pretty well outspoken that's in that area, and the disturbance they've had from waking up in the mornings, so not being able to sleep with the windows open. So I think this is a great idea. I do have a question for Ms. Hartling. Is this site serviced with sewer and water?
Through your worship, yes, it has sewer and water servicing.
And they're still going with an outhouse style building?
Through your worship, there might be a need for additional washrooms if there is more of a comprehensive plan. For the current building, there's only two staff or 3 staff for it. So at building permit, there is no conditions for a more substantial washroom for the type of use for the property.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that. And we're just looking at form and character on this one, correct?
Through your worship, that's correct, yeah.
Okay, perfect. That's it for me, Your Worship.
And they have I believe at their existing site, they have a porta potty. Is that not correct? Sorry.
Through your worship, yes. They'd be the same portable potty, portable toilet, however, it would be enclosed. And then the same materials that they're taking over from the existing site, but instead of the white or plastic type wrap, they would be cladding it in metal.
Perfect. All right, thank you. Any other questions from council? Seeing none, I will call the question. I guess we better put the motion on the table first. Thank you for smiling. Someone want to put the motion on the table for me? Councillor Devlin.
I move that development permit DP 2023-001 be issued form and character for the construction of a storage and manufacturing facility at 95 Carter Street, et cetera, as per the package.
All right. And second for the motion, Councillor Cherry. Any further discussion on the motion? Mr. Black, any comments? None. All right. I will now call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? No. Motion's passed unanimously. Thank you. Thank you for allowing our councillor back in. All right. We'll carry on in a moment. Welcome back, Councillor Orlando. Moving on to item 13A, Social Development Committee meeting minutes of April 26th. Councillor Lusow, comments.
Thank you, Mayor Schultz. We had presentations from Melissa Hemphill about the food security strategy, which we saw committee of the whole, as well as the poverty reduction strategy, and just some of the priority actions talked about with the other nonprofits. We also talked about the official community plan and wanting to keep that a living document. So looking for that for review, we might have to look at our terms of reference. So it's within the scope of the Social Development Committee. And then we had a roundtable just bringing everybody up to speed. The affordability fund from the school was being spent on kids, whether it was backpack program, clothing, breakfast program, the pool passes and movie passes were well received, and the women's shelter has their numbers rising. So just looking into funding as well as housing for them as well.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from council? Seeing none, any further comment, Councillor?
No.
Okay, we'll move on to APC, Councillor Cherry.
Thanks, Your Worship. Council, we were presented a rezoning application for a mobile home park in Arrow Heights. There are a few comments here I'd love to read out from the commission. They are supportive of infill and multi-housing development, but they'd like the applicant to consider a higher density, so more units on the site than what he's currently proposing. They support a reduction in parking if feasible for the site to allow for secondary suites and increased dwelling units. And they recommend the applicant review affordable, attainable housing options with the city staff to address section 4.2 of the housing policy in the OCP. They also recommend that the applicant include and address community trail connectivity options and walkability in the proposal. Aside from the minutes, there was also conversations about CACs,
Amenity contributions.
community amendment contributions. I don't know why, I always forget that acronym.
Sorry.
Just to let you guys know that shovels will not be in the ground this year, even if this comes to council for our approval. Yeah, so this is a good way to start that conversation. And it also leads into B, the tenant protection policy was presented to the APC. This is in regard to mobile home parks, mostly. So let's just say that timing is what it is with that first project. Then the third thing we looked at was the zoning bylaw workshop. We are using the advisory planning commission kind of to help bring in the community support for the new zoning bylaw that we're looking at. So
No, appreciate those comments. Definitely with the tenant protection policy, APC asked for staff to consider a cash and lieu option for mobile home park redevelopment. And then just as we note, as we're looking at these minutes for staff, it's not approved yet, but I, Mayor Sells, was present for some of that meeting, and it's not noted. Probably staff didn't see me sitting at the back of the room. So I just want to make that, just so we've got that all dealt with. Other than that, any other comments from council on those meeting minutes?
Just a quick question through the chair to Councilor Cherry. Is R3 the only other zoning that's at our disposal for kind of a multifamily? Is there, like, I know there's R1, R2, R3, obviously. Is there nothing between R3 and R5? Like, what would be R4?
I'd have to double check exactly what's structured under R4. I know that R5 is the mobile home park and R3 is, our townhouse.
Okay.
But our zoning bylaws are 50, 60 years old. Just our density outlooks. You'd be surprised what it actually accumulates. If you guys would like to review the minutes, not just the minutes, but the actual presentation is available online. It's highly informative and valuable. You'll probably spend a lot of time reading that.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments from council?
One other question through the chair to Councilor Cherry. Is there any kind of proposal right now for the city to help developers with the cost of building affordable or attainable housing? Just because, like, I'm looking at this report here quickly on the meeting minutes, and it says support infill multifamily housing development, and that the applicant consider proposing a higher density. We all know that a higher density comes with a higher cost. So I don't know if there's any kind of, if we want to have higher density, is that only at the cost of the developer? And is there any kind of incentive or like
So the thing
ways of working with the city to obtain that?
Sorry, through Richard. The thing with the higher density that they're proposing, right now there's, I think, eight units that are being proposed. A 3,000 square foot duplex versus 4 duplexes. There's not a lot of different costs related to building those. But though there's no financial avenues that the city are here to support developers, there are provincial and federal funds available. If you hit it, we do have density bonusing, but if anybody's familiar with this application, there's about a 13-year history you can look up online, including multiple news articles about what's happened to the residents there in the park. One of the issues that the group was having a problem with was just that, sorry, let me get my words straight here. Right now, we seem to be building large units where there's no structure to purchase for anybody younger. I think right now you have to show about 150K in income to get a $700,000 mortgage. I think that's what we're currently at with the current interest rates. Whereas if these were smaller units, that'd be a cheaper way for people to enter the market. But no, nothing for the city.
And so just with that, there may be things that we can do as far as regulations go down the road. That will be something that would have to be staff driven and talk to council about as far as red tape, if there is red tape. Mr. Black, you may want to talk about that. But as far as financial compensation, there's nothing. So we're bound by legislation. We can't help a business from a financial perspective. So Mr. Black, you've taken the podium. Any comment?
Thank you, Your Worship. There may be some opportunities through reductions of DCC fees, which will have to be considered with the reintroduction and adoption of the development cost charge bylaw that we expect to bring forward this year. So there may be some tools available to encourage that higher density through DCCs.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Black. Any further comments or questions from council? Councilor Leonard.
Sorry, just following up on the comment, when this year are we likely to see the DCC policy? If I could ask through the chair of staff.
Sure.
You just mentioned this year, but I'm kind of curious as to timeline.
You're going to put me on the spot. Thank you.
There you go.
It is roughly halfway through the year, so I'm going to assume Christmas. That would be a Christmas present for council. I have not yet engaged consultants to undertake this project, but with the completion of all the master planning and the previous work that was done in 2017, we have a pretty good basis to start. So I'm relatively comfortable that we should be done in 6 months, assuming there's no big hiccups.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Through the chair.
Thanks, Mr. Black. All right, we will move on. So, Ms. Delasal, do we have any questions from the press?
Sorry, Your Worship.
Oh, certainly. Did I
There
miss
is
something?
13C, the PRC Youth Advisory minutes.
I'm not seeing that because I'm looking at paper instead of. All right, Councilor Russo, we're back to you.
Yep.
Youth Advisory Committee.
Yeah, so had a report from Ainsley, just talking about all the different projects she's been helping do. So they had the Nordic skiing after school. They did 5 weeks for the grade 4s and 7s and saw 40 kids per week going through that. The school district paid for transportation there to and from the hill, and the Nordic Club supplied the equipment. They did digital art exploration with the Idea Factory. Ski touring for 24 kids with the Alpine Club of Canada. They did rock climbing. They continue to see good enrollment with their environmental club, their pride club, and their drop-in sports. They started a book club at Fable for the grade 8s. Ainsley has built good relationships with the grade 8s who are just coming into the high school and talking about their workloads, boundary imbalances, having too many things to do compared to elementary school. The Shredders Biking Club for girls is in their 3rd year. They're seeing about 18 to 20 girls registered in the elementary and high school. They did a bike maintenance day where Float sent 2 technicians to the high school, and kids should have their bikes repaired and learn how to maintain them in anticipation for Bike to Work Week. They went down to the Basin Youth Leadership Summit in Kamloops, and they did their own CBT youth engagement session, and some of the notable things were affordable housing is already an issue for the kids in high school, free indoor spaces for them to be able to be in and not have to buy something. Coffee shops are usually closing right when school is letting out, and you need to buy something to be there. And the trail network and outdoor spaces, preserving that in town, as well as preserving the heritage. And through our roundtable, lots of things are just wrapping up with the schools. Kids' mental health is a really big issue. It still continues to be an issue after COVID. They're still seeing it continue to get worse. So it's something that needs more support moving forward.
And so can I ask Councillor, how will that be manifesting support for mental health?
More counselors here in town. the counselors that they have are strained and don't have enough time to put towards all the kids that need assistance. So you're starting to see kids fall through the cracks. And yeah, they're seeing more rises in depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts and tendencies, things like that. So it's something that hasn't tapered off after COVID. It's still continuing to grow. So it's still something that we need to talk about and be aware of.
Good, thank you for that comment. Wow, that's a busy group, youth advisory. Any comments or questions from council? Seeing none, now I will move on to questions from the press. Estelle Sal.
No questions from the press, Your Worship.
All right, thank you, appreciate that. All right, council, like someone to make a motion to go in camera pursuant to section 90.1A of the community charter. Councilor Luciano, Councilor Staplenhurst, all in favor? Motion's carried. We will now move in camera and stop the live stream for the public.